Okay, welcome back everyone to Global Small Talk. Today we got another V episode coming your way, and we're going to be talking about partnerships for climate. So we have a few people to help us with this discussion today, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Can you get us started?
Hi guys, I'm Rafael Nicolas Bimeral. Yes, you can call me Nico, and I'm 17 years old. Ay, joke! Gagi. So, hi guys, my name is Rafael Nicolas Bimeral. Yes, you can call me Nico. Turning 17 this December. I am a Capricorn, and I did join this Global Small Talk podcast is because actually Irene inspired me. Yes, as we all know, the world is now experiencing a change, which is actually bad, as we all know. Um, and I realized that if not us, who will make an action, who will make a change. So yeah, that's why I joined this podcast to help disseminate the information. Yeah, that's all.
Hi everyone, my name is Margann. I'm from the class of grade 11 St. Lorenzo Ruiz at St. Joseph, so St. Joseph's Academy. It's actually my first time being in a podcast, so I think it's going to be pretty obvious that I'm actually very nervous, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to learning a lot in this podcast. As we all know, the climate change is deteriorating every moment, every time as we speak. And it's going to be harder as time goes by. And that's why I think partnerships and being able to have people with us to with the same cause, helping the environment is very important. And I'm looking forward to learning a lot.
And I think I'm the last one. Well, I am Christian Joseph T. Mendoza. You can call me CJ or Christian, whatever you want. And it's really nice to be back here, Irene. The last time I was here, we talked about climate education, and I am very thankful that that episode really came out great. We had a great discussion with Miss Violi. And now I am really hoping to also have a productive and great conversation and discussion with all of you about climate. So that's for me.
Okay, so nice to hear from all of you again. And the last time we talked about partnerships for climate, it was just me and Atenina. So it's definitely refreshing to be able to talk about this with some other people. So as I mentioned, the last episode, episode 2A, we had Atenina and she had so many amazing things to say about partnerships for climate. But this is a B episode, so we're talking about your opinion. So for you, what do you think comes into mind when you hear the words partnership for climate? So, Nico, you can start us off.
So yeah, hello, I'm back. So, what comes into my mind when I hear partnerships for climate? For me, it is like a link between people, a link between people that we all know will create a change, like a process in order to have the first step into making our world a better world. Yes, that's all.
I think what comes to most people is that those people who work hard to preserve and make our environment better, right? Like, I think most people would think that partnership for climates would be people who aim to make a change in the environment and climate together.
So for me, when I hear the words partnerships for climate, I think of a collective action between different people from different places or communities and really gather in an inclusive space where they share the same advocacies or even goals. In this sense, different people gather to share their advocacies in climate development or education, just like the previous episodes of this podcast. And I think they also have the ability to grow their relationship to create a movement for the betterment of our climate.
Yeah, so I agree with all of you. Personally, for me, when I hear the word partnerships for climate, I always think about networking. Networking with people who share the same advocacy or the same passion as you. And if I may share with you, I actually only recently thought about the concept of having partnerships for climate justice because I joined an org and I started working under the partnerships branch. And it's a lot of writing technical letters to like DepEd, to whoever, to get them into the cause of climate education. And yeah, talking to Atenina also, there's a lot of technicalities when it comes to networking for climate or for that cause. But on a more personal aspect, I'm wondering now, have you like ever had a chance to make partnerships, relationships or friendships, with people who share the same causes or advocacies or like passions as you? Nico, can you start us off again?
Hello. So yeah, I know several people that are now like activists activists like that, like you, Irene. So yeah, I think that's all. And I have not joined any organizations or stuff that regards to climate change. Yeah.
If I were asked that question, personally and honestly, I think being able to be part of this podcast itself is a great way on how to form partnerships with people who have the same cause with us. Because honestly, I don't really have much of connections regarding that area, but I do have some friends and I do have some family members who are interested in those kinds of things like climate change and environmental issues. And I think being able to be with this podcast is to be proven like to be very educational for all of us here. And at the same time, I think it would be a very good cause for us to learn and be able to spread awareness about environmental issues and, for example, this topic, partnerships for climate.
And for me naman, to be completely honest, being a part of this podcast was really my first time. It is my first time being in a group or community that also share the same causes as me. And I think despite being my first time, I'm hoping for more chances that will give me the opportunity to continue this advocacy towards climate development. And of course, it was really great because all of you are also my friends outside this podcast. And it is really great that we support each other in creating a movement. And with this podcast, I am really thankful that we get to talk with each other regarding this matter. We also form a growing community that really aims to protect the planet.
Well, it's nice to know that this podcast was everyone's first time. that's kind of that's really refreshing to hear. But it never really is too late to get started on building or networking for our passions, for our causes. And as you mentioned, it's so amazing to have like a support system of people who essentially share the same ideologies as you, which for us, that is climate justice and environmental preservation through conversations. And so, my next question, there's a lot of talk about global cooperation. And obviously, when we talk about global cooperation for climate, that involves things on the more technical and on the more personal aspect as well. So, in your opinion, has or does building relationships with people who share the same causes as you advance whatever movement you're working in, which again, in our case, is the climate movement? So, Nico, you've been getting started again.
Yeah, I do believe that having friends or relationships with people that you have the same cause will do make an advancement. Like as we all know, we know the saying, two heads are better than one. So ang dami natin dito. So and I do believe that we will create a change. Maybe not like agad-agad, pero slowly we will make progress. Yes.
I personally think that two is better than one, kagaya nga nung sinabi ni Nico. In order to protect our environment, we can't just do it on our own, diba? Like, we have to work together to be able to create a change. Of course, the change starts with us, but to be able to be helpful to the environment, I think we also have to involve in partnerships to be able to help more causes and to reach out to more people. I think building relationships with people who share the same cause can double, or if not, at least make a better impact rather than doing it alone. We all have to work together in this project kasi, in order to create the change. I may not know some individuals personally, but I do have some people that I look up onto that is doing the same cause and has proven that being able to do partnerships for the same cause can prove a better impact and can reach a wider, more known youth audience that can help out a lot in the environment.
And so for me, well, of course, building relationships with people who also carry the same advocacies as me also advance the movement because I will be a part of a growing community who share the same goals in terms of climate development. So basically, as our community grows, the stimulus that all of us induce among other communities or other people will also grow. It will be a constant process of leading a movement that will continuously develop into a bigger perspective. And imagine if everyone has the initiative to make a move towards climate development, then imagine the possibilities of saving our planet. Kung gagalaw ako, kung gagalaw siya, kung gagalaw tayong lahat, then it will really advance the movement. And of course, we all know how productive Irene really is in terms of advocacies, in being an activist. And of course, honestly, I was also inspired. So imagine the influence that we bring to other people, especially in our generation. It will really create a big help.
Wow, thank you. Honestly, Jake, that caught me off guard, to be honest. Uh, I've really been realizing how many people I've inspired during these three episodes. But I know that for every person I inspire, they'll also be inspiring like at least 10 more. And I think at the end of the day, that is the goal, which is to include more people in our causes. Because obviously, more people, more work, more possibilities. So as you've mentioned earlier, this is like one of your first experiences in building partnerships for climate or for any advocacy at all. So I wanted to ask, is it something that you look forward to, building more partnerships or building more friendships or networking with more people for any certain cause in mind?
Yeah. So I as a person is not very social. Like I'm not confident talking with strangers and that's why I joined this podcast is to improve not only myself but also help um improve others, because like you said, as you inspire us, we inspire others, right? So as we inspire others, they can also help us create the change that we all need right now, because the earth is suffering and without it there will be no us. Yeah.
I personally look forward to it since I want to be able to help our environment with the people and my friends who have the same cause as me. Doing these acts with people who know that I have the same cause with creates more opportunities for us to be more known and to be more widely spread. And I think it also creates a beautiful memory for all of us because we're all doing something that can help the environment and that we're all doing something to make a change for the environment and for our climate space. With the connections we form, we can also learn more from each other's opinions and like produce more produce more results better than being alone in the project.
And so for me, well, personally in this podcast, I was really excited. From the moment Irene proposed this podcast to me, I was definitely enthusiastic with the context of this podcast. And I am really looking forward to building partnerships within the climate space because simply I am also a firm believer that communication and creating connections with other people to enhance a wide set of advocacies and goals is the fundamental in starting a collective movement towards progression. And with the context of this podcast, we can form a bigger movement in handling and battling issues affecting our climate and, of course, our planet Earth. We can also communicate or create partnerships with other experts or even other organizations. And of course, mas maraming chika rin yung makukuha natin, syempre. And kung mas marami tayo, syempre mas magiging masaya din yung planet Earth natin. So, yeah.
Definitely agree with all of you on everything. I also actually I really like making this podcast mainly because I get to meet so many new people and I get to talk with a lot of older friends. It's a really nice feeling not to be communicating more with people who know or like see something from a different perspective than me. And this is kind of a random question, but I'll just throw it out there. Are there like any organizations or any movements targeted towards the climate space that you're interested in like joining or taking part of? Because for me, I feel like in the past 2 months, I've definitely been included in a lot of different orgs and different events. So for you, is there something you're interested in?
For me, as of now, wala pa akong nakikitang ibang orgs. But if there are possibilities and opportunities, why not? Yeah.
I would have to say the same for me. Honestly, I haven't been involved in much organizations like as this one, or I haven't been involved in much or like these kind of environmental acts to begin with in the first place. And it's really my first time here, so I'm very enthusiastic about it. At the same time, if there are many more opportunities or if I can reach out to more people who have the same cause, I would love to be a part of those organizations as well.
And I think I also share the same sentiments with with the two. Well, honestly, I am still in the process of um digging digging into other organizations that can also give me the opportunity to spread these advocacies in terms of climate education, climate development, and climate justice. And in the future, I think I want myself to be more involved in voluntary works, in being an educated person, and not only developing myself in being a better citizen of this planet, but also providing a better environment for the whole community in different aspects. So yeah, that's all for me.
Okay, I understand that. I think I should maybe start sending few links. I know I've kind of a few orgs are looking for volunteers right now, so maybe you'd be interested in that. But anyways, I think it's really nice to know that, even though there's not a lot going on right now, you are still very much looking forward into these things because obviously we are needed in the climate space. And I think showing up just for this podcast is already a really big step in that. So what I want to ask you next is, for example, you're making this is kind of situational. So just like your own opinion on this, share your opinion on this. If, for example, kunyari, you're ahead of an org and you're going to like ask for a partnership with another org and you share the same cost, what do you think is like the most important thing there? Because in 2A, Atenina mentioned that it's important to get to know the org before you actually sign on to something. So for you naman, what do you think is the most important thing to consider when you are making partnerships with, other orgs, other institutions, other people, especially when it comes to, yeah, the movement again?
So yeah, first for me, you should know their goals. Y- Maybe you are sharing the same knowledge, but I can say that every org has mm, different goals. And I think that you should be suitable, or you should be sure that you have the capacity, or you are able to meet their standards before joining a particular org.
I stand by what Atenina and Nico said. I think before you should become partners with another org, I think you should know the org first, the goals and the methods they use. Because some might not be favorable to you. Like some of the methods they use to protect or to like do things may not be favorable to you or may not be accustomed to you. And so you might want to have your own opinion on this. And if they're a bigger org, then most of the time what happens is they're going to be in charge of the entire thing and you will have to see the process. I think it's very important to know the org first and to like know their goals and to know the people there and to know if you have the same process and if you agree with both their morals and their overall mission as well.
And for me, I think the most important thing in serving partnerships with other organizations is definitely to be educated with your advocacies and goals. And of course, you also need to be aware with the goals of other organizations, just like what Rafael and Margan said. And I think hindi naman pwedeng papasok ka sa isang gera na walang armas. And in this sense, yung armas natin or yung protection natin is our education, our knowledge about this context, our knowledge about climate, our environment. So I think that will be our main basis on how to create a productive partnership with other organizations. And I think I also want to include that it is also necessary to share the same motivation and enthusiasm with other organizations, because we all know that being a part of these organizations with the same advocacies is an initiative, or it is considered as voluntary work. So basically, the results or our reward for all of our productiveness in protecting our planet is the future that we will create for other generations. That will be our reward in seeing a better future and a better environment for the future generations.
Yeah, okay. So again, I agree with all of that. I think, the main point was that it's important to really get to know whoever it is that you're planning to work with. And yeah, I think you share the same sentiments with Adenina and I. So that's good to know. We have to always be educated, obviously, about who we're going to be working with. So you don't know, somebody might be sketchy. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so we're coming up on our time. But before I end, does anybody have any final remarks? Or maybe all of you can give a little something for our audience, for our viewers. Just remember, when it comes to partnerships about climate. So Nico.
So yeah, I believe that making relationships with others is important, especially when the climate space needs us right now. So yeah, thank you, Irene, for inviting me. So once again, I'm Nico.
I think building relationships for a climate and environmental causes is very noble, a noble act for all of us and a very important and must-have act for all of us as well. I know it's voluntary, but I think it would be a good way to get everyone working together if the cause is for the environment, if for the result is for the environment. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, Irene, for giving me this opportunity to be in the podcast.
And yeah, so for me, I just want to leave that partnerships for a climate partnerships for climate is just simply creating relationship with other people. And of course, in simpler terms, basically kung meron ka mga kaibigan sa loob ng tropa nyo, if akala nyo na puro chika lang kayo, kalokohan, kaya nyo pang makagawa ng isang noble act in terms of saving our planet. And of course, lahat kayo, we are all friends outside this podcast. And imagine we are a part of something that can really help our community in terms of protecting wildlife, in terms of protecting our climate, and different aspects of our planet. So yeah, it is really nice to be back here, Irene. Thank you for inviting me once again. So that's all for me. I am CJ.
All right. So, of course, it's also a pleasure to have all of you here on Global Small Talk. Before I end, I have a little challenge or sort of question for our audience. That is, can you think of anyone at all, who you've met in the climate space and been really good friends with so far? Can you think of anyone who's inspired you to take part in climate action or whatnot? You can answer this in our socials. Watch out for that post. But aside from that, that's all. So thank you again so much for listening to this episode. And thank you to Nico, CJ, and Margann for coming on here. I know we're all very busy, but thank you for taking the time. And of course, thank you so much to our Globies. So that is all for this episode, and see you in the next one. Bye.